St. Luke chapter 10, beginning with verse 25. Reading from the Revised Standard Version of the Scriptures, the word of the Lord is as follows. And behold, a lawyer stood up to put him to the test, saying, Teacher, what shall I do to inherit eternal life? He said to him, What is written in the law? How do you read it? And he answered, You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself. He said to him, You've answered correctly. Do this, and you will live. But he, desiring to justify himself, said to Jesus, And who is my neighbor? Jesus replied, A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and he fell among robbers who stripped him and beat him and departed, and leaving him half dead. Now by chance a priest was going down that road, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. So likewise a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he journeyed, came to where he was, and when he saw him, he had compassion. He went to him and bound up his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. And he set him on his own animal and brought him to an inn and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper, saying, Take care of him, and whatever more you spend, I will repay when you come back. Which of these 3 do you think proved to be a neighbor to the man who fell among the robbers? He said, The one who showed him mercy. And Jesus said to him, You go and do likewise. Thus far, the word of the Lord. You may be seated. But he, desiring to justify himself, said to Jesus, And who is my neighbor? Which of these 3 do you think proved to be a neighbor? The man who fell among the robbers. He said, The one who showed him mercy. Jesus said to him, You go and do likewise. This is our third part of our collective journey of affirming some central tenets for which we as the body of Christ stand. And so today we're dealing with what it means to be for our neighbor. We are for the gospel truth that Jesus Christ died for our sins according to the Scriptures. He was buried. God raised him from the dead according to the Scriptures. We are motivated by our personal experience with the gospel, and we understand and appreciate how the gospel has resulted in transforming our lives. Last week, we dealt with the fact that part of our transformed way of living is to be what Christ is for. Our being for the gospel motivates us to be in Christ, and Christ is in us, so we must now be for what Christ is for. We learned last week that Christ is for the church. He is for the church's unity. And therefore, we understand that biblical unity is not a matter of form, it's a matter of our focus. We affirm a common privilege of receiving the revelation of God through Jesus Christ, a common status of being owned and protected by God, a common challenge of the opposition of the world and the need to maintain our distinctiveness from the world, and a common opportunity to reveal the unity of Jesus and the Father, to confirm that God the Father sent Jesus into the world, and to demonstrate the love that the Father has. Transformed lives are not only inward focus. And that's why today we move to an outward focus. We aren't just to reflect how we are with ourselves, but transformed lives through the gospel are reflected in how we are with others. It's not just a matter of how we are with those we claim as family, but also those whom we claim are outside of the family. As we declare that we are for the church and its unity, we must also declare that we are for our neighbors. Now, this affirmation is particularly important in a time when the tone of our nation, and indeed the world, skews toward a hostility of other people. In an article entitled "The Problem of Othering Towards Inclusiveness and Belonging," John Powell and Stephen Menendian write, "The problem of the 21st century is the problem of othering. In a world beset by seemingly intractable and overwhelming challenges, virtually every global, national, and regional conflict is wrapped up within or organized around one or more dimensions of group-based difference. Othering undergirds territorial disputes, sectarian violence, military conflict, the spread of disease, hunger and food security, and even climate change. They define othering as a set of dynamics, processes, and structures that engender marginality and persistent inequality across any of the full range of human differences based on group identities." I'll give you a simpler definition. Othering can be described as any action by which an individual or group becomes mentally classified in somebody's mind as not one of us. Rather than always remembering that every person is a complex bundle of emotions, ideas, motivations, reflexes, priorities, and many other subtle aspects, it's sometimes easier to dismiss some people as being in some way less human or less worthy of respect and dignity than we are. The article goes on to posit that this inclination to engage in othering thought processes is tied to our sense of self-preservation and stresses that learning to avoid and counteract those thought processes is key to reducing the world's hatred and suffering. This othering undergirds much of the body politic in our world. There is an incendiary ideology that is afoot. In many countries, you are beginning to hear the slogan, "blank first." In our country, you hear America first, Germany first, Italy first, Spain first, Russia first. Those slogans are used to refer to a concentration upon people believed to be insiders and everyone else as outsiders. The insiders are those who make up the racial and ethnic majority. The outsiders or others that pop up in the minds of those who hold this ideology are usually ethnic and racial minorities who are both residents and immigrants. Our president's candidacy and administration has been and continues to be marked by exploiting a fear and even hatred of others, where ethnic and racial minorities are characterized as rapists, murderers, and people from S-hole countries. In such an environment, the body of Christ is called to a different stance that critiques such an ideology. We are called to demonstrate an ethic that is for the other. We are called to be for our neighbor. Jesus teaches this in the text that is before us. The parable of the Good Samaritan is told within the context of a conversation between Jesus and a Jewish official concerning the nature and way to eternal life. The answer is to love the Lord your God, to love your neighbor as yourself. And now, trying to find the parameters of the latter clause, the official raises the question, who is my neighbor? In other words, he's trying to figure out, who is he exempted from having to love. Who can he get a get out of hell free pass for not loving? And so Jesus tells this parable. It's a parable of a man traveling from Jerusalem to Jericho. And we usually assume that the person who's traveling from Jerusalem to Jericho is a Jew, but Jesus doesn't say that. He just says a certain man was traveling from Jerusalem down to Jericho, and he's attacked by robbers who steal his belongings, strip him of his clothes, beat him, and leave him in the street half dead. A priest comes down the road, sees the man from afar, crosses to the other side, and keeps on keeping on. A Levite, a worship leader, if you will, sees the man from a distance, crosses to the other side, and keeps on going. Perhaps they had a church service to go to. A third person is introduced, and Jesus qualifies this person with one word: Samaritan. And with the word Samaritan, Jesus invokes the issue of race, because Samaritans were people of mixed blood. Samaritan was not a nice term, it was the N-word of its day. They were frowned upon by Orthodox Jews because their blood was mixed with heathens. This Samaritan, this N-word individual, sees the man from a distance, comes to where the man is, has pity on him, bandages him, puts him on his own donkey, takes him to an inn, takes care of him, pays for him to stay there, and ensures his continued care by telling the innkeeper, whatever else is needed, you do it, and I will come and repay upon my return. And with the official asking Jesus to identify the parameters of the neighbor that he is commanded to love, Jesus answers a different question. Jesus speaks to the matter of what it means to be a neighbor to someone. Jesus lifts up for us what it means to be for our neighbor. Here it is. Being for our neighbor requires a willingness to move beyond judgments that we make about others from a distance, to see them for whom they really are. The particulars of the story are important. The man is robbed, stripped, beaten, and left half dead. And as the priest looks at the man, and as the Levite looks at the man, they are walking and they see this man from a distance. They cross the street and they keep walking. And one of the reasons why is they make a judgment from a distance. They see a half-dead man from a distance. And from a distance, a half-dead person looks all the way dead. From a distance, the situation looks terminal. From a distance, it looks like it's a case for the undertaker and not them. And why wouldn't they go closer? Well, the law says that if you touch a dead body, you become ceremonially unclean. Now, if they're on their way to the revival service, they can't afford to be unclean, because then they can't get to the service and participate. And so they act off of a perception from a distance. It's not a personal thing. It's not proximal. It's from a distance. With Jesus giving us he doesn't give us the amount of time between the Levite and the priest. It may be that they are close, and so the Levite sees the priest move, and the Levite just follows and does what the priest says. Or it may be that there was great amount of time between the priest and the Levite, which means that to the Levite, the half-dead man now looks even more dead than he did before the priest went to the other side. We don't know. What we do know is that they both make their judgments from the perspective of distance. Neither of them come close to the man. Neither enters the man's neighborhood. neither checks distant assumptions with closer examination. But the Samaritan, he walks to where the man is. He does not base his actions on how the man looks at a distance. He comes to where the man is, and by coming to where the man is, he sees more than what the man appeared from a distance. He sees the man as the man is. He sees the man in his reality, and he realizes what he could not understand from a distance. At a distance, he was prone to make certain judgments. But now that he is where the man is, he sees him as he is. You can't be for your neighbor if you're just going to make distant judgments. Being for your neighbor requires you to move beyond making judgments from a distance and come into knowledge from by being near them. The word neighbor literally is near-ber. It's being near somebody. There's got to be the willingness to enter into the space and the neighborhood and the reality and see things for what they really are, to see people for who they really are, to know the issues for what they really are. It's to refuse to accept the distant judgments that you are prone to make and to risk coming close enough to see for yourself. When you come close enough, the Samaritan saw that the man who looked dead from a distance was only half dead in reality. His getting near the man enables him to correctly and properly identify him. He recognizes in the man what he recognizes in himself. While faint, the man is still breathing. While weak, the man still has a pulse. While wounded and broken, the man still has life. He still bore the image and likeness of God. The man still has meaning and value and dignity. The man still desires a chance to get better and to be better. Being for our neighbor is being willing to get close enough to recognize in other people what you know to be true about yourself. It is to recognize that we are all created in the image and likeness of God. We all have been endowed with personality, and we all have a need to be and to belong. We all desire the opportunity to be our best selves. We all desire safety and security for ourselves and those whom we love, as all parents want their children to be educated in safe schools, my God, with competent and caring teachers who value them and see them in terms of their potential. All people want to live in a safe neighborhood with neither fear of crime by criminals nor the false assumption of criminality by a law enforcement officer. Everybody, every man wants to be respected, and every woman wants equal pay for an equal day's work. All you got to do is recognize what you need and understand that's what everybody else needs. From a distance, the half-dead man looked to be dead to the priest and Levite, causing them to cross the street and keep on walking. And their crossing the street was not simply due to their being afraid. They just didn't want to become ceremonially unclean. Their concern about cleanliness overrode their curiosity about the man and his state of being. Not so with the Samaritan. The man looks dead from a distance, but the Samaritan moves closer to the man. His concerns for the man moves him closer. Maybe because Samaritans were marginalized people. Marginalized people are less threatened by losing status because they don't have that much status in the first place. What he got to lose, he's already in their minds anyway. So he just keeps on going. Because being for your neighbor requires moving past the normal excuses for being against them. The priest and Levite looking from a distance, seeing a man that looks dead cross the street, they don't want to become unclean. The law becomes their reason for not coming closer to the man. Their concern for their status moves them across the street. But the Samaritan, as I said, he's not worried about status because he doesn't have much anyway. He moves closer and causes him now to see what others thought would have been an issue, isn't even an issue, because the man isn't dead. If they had gotten closer to the man, they would have seen that what they thought was an issue wasn't even an issue. But because the Samaritan valued what he saw at a distance, it moved him closer, and it moved him past normal excuses. Being for your neighbor requires valuing them to a certain degree that you overcome your normal excuses for being against them or not being bothered with them. And you know the normal excuses that we use. I don't know. They're not my people. They look dead. They're just not worth the hassle. It's just not worth my time. Those are the normal excuses that we all use. And we use them because we're looking at them from a distance. But when you value the person, when you recognize the image of God in the person, you're willing to overcome the normal excuses for being against them or not being bothered with them. The Samaritan moves closer until he gets to where the man actually is. And now that he's standing where the man is, he doesn't know where the people are who beat him up in the first place. They could be hiding in a bush. This could all be a scam, right? Designed to get his money. They could be around the corner, down the street. It's risky for him to stop where he is and take the time to look at the man, to really see the man, to become aware of the man. And sometimes it is risky dealing with the neighbor that you don't know, and you don't know what's around the corner that might come your way. But you are willing to take the risk because you value the life that is before you. And as he stands there, he looks at, and he's looking into what he sees. And he sees this man that while he's half dead, he's also half alive. And because of that, the Bible says, Jesus says, he takes pity on the man. Because, friends, being for your neighbor requires a willingness to be impacted by the condition of your neighbor. As the Samaritan looks at this beaten, bloodied, half-dead man, he feels for him. And that word feeling is compassion. It's wounded womb, the image. You got it before. I'm not going to give it again because my children said I was a little graphic in my description. But here it is. It's feeling what others feel in the depth of their feeling. So, brothers, when we see on television a man kicked in the groin, did y'all hear that? Now, they ain't say amen to anything else I said, but they said something to that. Why? Because they felt it as I described it, right? That's what compassion is. It didn't happen to you, but you feel it. And you feel it in such a graphic way, you say, oh, because it's happening to you internally. That's what Jesus says the Samaritan felt for the man that he saw. And that is what Jesus is saying, that we are called to feel for the people that we see. We are called to see them and to feel them. To see them and to feel their hopes, to see them and to feel their fears, to see them and to feel their joys, their hurts, their pain, their frustrations, their brokenness. That's what the brother on the curb wants to know. Can you feel me? That's what the kid who's marginal in school wants to know. Can you feel me? That's what the person who has been left half dead because nobody cares for them because of the lifestyle that they're living. Can you feel me? That's what the person strung out and addicted. Can you feel me? Can you be impacted by me? Every time the women do ministry at the shelter or the men do ministry at the shelter or we have room in the inn, the people want to know, can you feel me? Can you identify with me? Can you get into my skin? Can you understand my way of thinking? I know you want to give me the gospel, but can you understand what I'm dealing with so that you'll understand how the gospel might be able to apply to me? Can you feel me? Can you feel me? Can you be impacted? Can you be bothered? Can you be upset? Can you get indignant? Can you get godly mad? Can you become so frustrated by what I'm having to deal with that you are willing to do this next thing? Being for our neighbor includes a willingness to take personal responsibility. Do you see it? The Samaritan has compassion. He's feeling for him and seeing what he feels and feeling what he feels and knowing what he knows. He determines that he has to do something. He can't leave this man in his current condition. The moment calls for him to respond. He moves to the man. He bends down towards the man. He gets on the level of the man. He gets some dust on his clothes. He gets some dirt under his nails. He gets some blood, my God, on his very being. And he bandages up the man. He pours oil and wine on the man. He then says, I can't just bandage him and leave him. No, bandaging him ain't really going to help him. It's just going to lengthen the time that he's alive before he dies. No, I got to do something else. I got to put him on my donkey. The donkey that I was riding on, I got to put him on, which means I got to walk while he's on my donkey. And I got to take him. I was going somewhere, but I got to take him to an inn that I wasn't prepared to stop, because I'm a person who likes to get to where he's going, but I'm going to take him to an inn. And I'm going to take care of him. Compassion, my friends, is the willingness to be personally impacted, to become vulnerable to the point that you are literally shaken into action, and you cannot let things remain as they are. You got to do something. You've got to become personally involved. And here's where the rubber meets the road. Assuming personal responsibility will often include sacrifice. The Samaritan gives up the privilege of riding on his donkey. Putting a wounded man means he's got to walk. Means he's adjusting his schedule. He's going where he didn't plan on going, doing what he didn't plan on doing. If we're going to be for our neighbor, it requires the willingness to suffer discomfort on behalf of another. And that's something that's awfully challenging, because in today's society, we don't like discomfort. We are all about convenience. And so if I see helping you being within what I already planned, I'll help you. But if it in any way disrupts my flow, takes me out of what I planned, sorry, player, you're going to have to get it on your own, because I just can't be bothered. But no, if you're going to be for the neighbor, sure enough for the neighbor, you got to be willing to discomfort yourself. You got to be willing to bend towards the neighbor. You got to be willing to get dirty with the neighbor. You got to be willing to experience delay due to helping your neighbor. And guess what? You do it not expecting anything in return. Now there it is. There it is. That's another challenge, because oftentimes if I'm not getting anything out of it, if I'm not getting paid for it, if it ain't going to lead to a hookup for my future, I really can't be bothered. But the Samaritan says, you ain't going to give me nothing in return, and I'm still going to help you out. And there was a time in our collective history where it wasn't about whether you got something back. You just wanted to do what was right and help somebody out. Nothing about this man that would cause the Samaritan to think, I'm going to get anything in return. No quid pro quo, no IOU. He's helping him because he wants to help somebody out. And assuming personal responsibility for your neighbor is to act for them without looking for anything in return. The calculus of your actions are not what you'll get from it. It's what you'll give to it. It's not in how it benefits you, it's how you benefit it. It's simply determining that there's something that you can do to make it better. It's simply knowing that you made it better, your listening made it better, your understanding made it better, your stopping made it better, your speaking made it better, your counseling made it better, your listening made it better, your handshake made it better, your hug made it better, your God bless you made it better, your note made it better. You're not looking for anything in return, just knowing that you had the privilege of helping make somebody else's life better. Samaritan says, I'm going to do what I can to make it better. And let me tell you this, if you can't make it better, don't make it worse. No. If you can't make it better, the best thing for you to do is what the priest and Levite did. Go across the street and keep on walking, because a person half dead doesn't need you coming around making things. Man said, no, I'm going to make it better. I'm going to make it better. And do you think God has blessed you the way God has blessed you? Not for you to have on your mind, who can I help make better? With all that God has bestowed on you, places God has taken you, doors God has opened for you, ways God has made for you. Do you think that God did that just so you can walk around talking about how wonderful you are and how good God is without you doing anything to make somebody else's life better? Does it always have to be somebody making your life better? Can you, with who you are, with where you are, do something to make somebody else's? What would happen? What would happen if the Lord got us out of our self-centric mentality, looking for everybody else to make things better, when the Lord says, no, I have blessed you enough that if I don't give you anything else, I've blessed you more than you deserve or even thought possible. It's time for you to help make somebody else's life better. Samaritan said, might not be much, but I can make him better. Next day, he gives the innkeeper 2 days' wages, tells the innkeeper, look after him, will you? And if this ain't enough, when I come back, I'll hook you up. Jesus says to the official, now, I know what you asked me. I know you wanted to know if there's some people you are exempted from having to love. I know you wanted me to give you an ethnic or racial or behavioral characteristics of people you really don't have to be bothered with. But I ain't going to answer that question. Who was the neighbor to the jacked up brother? Who was the neighbor to the hood rat that nobody wants to deal with? Who was the neighbor to the one strung out and addicted? Who was the neighbor given to self-defeating and self-destroying activity? Who was the neighbor to that individual? Who was the neighbor to the person who differs with them on every political discussion? Who was the neighbor? And the official said, the one who had mercy. The one who felt what was needed to be felt and was moved to do something. Jesus said, well, bruh, you go and you do likewise. Jesus said, you know the scriptures. You've been in Sunday school. You go to Bible study. You tweet out the messages of the sermon. You go and you do likewise. And that's what Jesus is saying to you and to me. Jesus is literally saying, go and be the neighbor. Jesus is saying, go further and see people for who they really are. Go further and overcome your normal excuses for not getting involved. Go and be impacted by their condition in such a way that you are willing to take some personal responsibility. Go and do likewise. Go put somebody on your donkey and take them where they need to go. Go and inconvenience yourself so that you're able to help somebody's life be be better. Go and do likewise. And what I love about Jesus is he never tells me to do anything that he hasn't done already. Jesus says, whatever I tell you, it's because I have already done it, or I'm doing it right now. He can say, go, because he heard his Father say go. And that's why he came from heaven to earth. He came literally to see us for who we really are. He was in the Godhead in heaven, but he could not really see what we were like up there. And so he had to come in human flesh. He had to be born of a virgin in a stable in Bethlehem. He said, I had to come and be wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger. I had to come and be Emmanuel, meaning God with you. I had to be touched with the feeling of your infirmities. I had to know what it was to be born in less than ideal conditions. I had to know what it meant to have to go into hiding in Egypt. I had to know what it was to grow up in a ghetto city called Nazareth. I had to know what it was to have welfare butter and welfare cheese. I had to know what it was to be on public assistance. I had to know what it was for foxes to have holes, birds of the air have nests, and I'm not having, my God, nowhere to lay my head. I had to know what it is to be tempted like you at all points. I had to know what it was to have the devil on my trail. I had to know what it was to have people talk about you. I had to know what it was to be betrayed and denied. I had to know, and there was nothing that you could do that would make me any much more than I already am. There's nothing that you could give to me that I don't already own. There's nothing that you can do for me that I really can't do for myself. But Jesus said, I gave it all up because I loved you. I gave it all up on your behalf. I became sin for you. I became the sacrifice for you. I became the offering for you. He said, I died for you. I paid the price for you. I was wounded for you. I was stripped for you. I was chastened for you. I had, my God, I suffered for you. And he said, I didn't just pay a little bit. I paid it all. I took it all. And he said, I paid it all. And I did it all. And when I died for you. When I went to hell for you. But then early Sunday morning, when God raised me from the dead, I was raised for you. Because I live, you can live also. Because I conquered death, hell, and the grave, Jesus said, so can you. And I don't know about you, but I'm so glad that Jesus saw me in my helpless estate. I'm so glad that when he saw me half dead, he didn't walk to the other side, but he kept on in my direction. Is there anybody here who can say, I'm so glad that Jesus kept walking in my direction? I was half dead. Didn't know I was half dead because I had a little bit of change. I had a little bit of bank. I had some friends. I had a nice crib, and I did not know that I was half dead. But I'm so glad that Jesus found me in a half-dead state. And Jesus healed me. Jesus saved me. Jesus redeemed me. Jesus forgave me. And Jesus has been taking care of me every day since. Slap five with somebody and say, neighbor, he's been taking care of me. He's been watching over me. He's been making ways out of no way for me. He's been fighting battles for me. He's been opening doors for me. He's been lifting me higher, higher. Thank you, Jesus. 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 Thank you. You thought I was worth saving, so you came and changed my life. You thought I was worth keeping, so you cleaned me up inside. You thought I was to die for, so you sacrificed your life so I can be free. I can be whole. I can let the whole world know. Is there anybody here? Can you say thank you?